This is Coffee with God, and I am Father Jose. Let us begin this day with the Word of God and a short reflection.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to St. Luke, chapter 12, verses 32 to 48. The passage is taken from the Message version of the Bible. Jesus said to his disciples, "Don't be afraid of missing out. You're my dearest friends. The Father wants to give you the very kingdom itself. Be generous, give to the poor, get yourselves a bank that can't go bankrupt, a bank in heaven far from bank robbers, safe from embezzlers, a bank you can bank on." It's obvious, isn't it? The place where your treasure is the place you will most want to be and end up being. Keep your shirts on, keep the lights on, be like house servants waiting for their master to come back from his honeymoon, awake and ready to open the door when he arrives and knocks. Lucky the servants whom the master finds on watch. He'll put on an apron, sit them at the table, and serve them a meal, sharing his wedding feast with them. It doesn't matter what time of the night he arrives. They're awake, and so blessed. You know that if the house owner had known what night the burglar was coming, he wouldn't have stayed out late and left the place unlocked. So don't you be slovenly and careless. Just when you don't expect him, the Son of Man will show up. Peter said, "Master, are you telling the story just for us, or is it for everybody?" The master said, "Let me ask you, who is the dependable manager, full of common sense, that the master puts in charge of his staff to feed them well and on time? He is a blessed man if when the master shows up, he's doing his job. But if he says to himself, 'The master is certainly taking his time,' begins maltreating the servants and maids, throws parties for his friends, and gets drunk, the master will walk in when he least expects it. The servant who knows what his master wants and ignores it, or insolently does whatever he pleases, will be thoroughly thrashed. But if he does a poor job through ignorance, he'll get off with a slap on the hand. Great gifts mean great responsibilities. Greater gifts, greater responsibilities."
Reflections on the Gospel according to St. Luke, chapter 12, verses 32 to 48. The disciples are afraid. They know they are only a few and are weak in the face of a hostile world. Luke is addressing the concerns of his community. They get scared because evil triumphs everywhere. It seems overwhelming, and the faithful community feels fragile and unable to resist. Luke brings the message of consolation, hope, and courage to this distressed group of disciples. Therefore, today's passage begins with the exhortation, "Do not be afraid, little flock." From last Sunday's Gospel, we saw the foolish farmer who committed two mistakes. He failed to enrich himself before God and was not prepared to face death. Plagued by the concerns of this world, the fields, the crops, the storage, he did not have time to listen to God or to the cries of people around him. The mistake of the rich fool was that he was caught off guard, totally unprepared for death. Jesus responds with three parables. The parable of the master who entrusted his house to his servants and went to a wedding party represents Jesus. Having fulfilled his mission, Jesus entrusted his disciples the task of giving continuity to his work and left this world. The disciples know that their master will return, but do not know the time and must be ready to welcome him. Vigilance is equivalent to one's constant availability for service. In the Christian community, there are no masters or reverends, but only servants. Service is what characterizes the life of this house. When the master returns, he knocks at the door, as though asking permission to come in. The Lord comes many times to knock at our door because we must freely open and respond to his need. Jesus is the poor brother who comes to ask us for help. God has already put these treasures in our hands precisely because we must give them to our needy brother. When a needy person knocks at our door, it is the time to invest our treasures in love and give them in alms. Jesus proclaims another beatitude here. This beautiful beatitude is seldom mentioned. Blessed are the servants whom, when the master comes, finds awake. The disciples must remain awake and ready to serve. However, when the master returns, it will be he who girds his clothes, makes his servants sit at the table and serve them. The God of Jesus of Nazareth is the servant of people. We read it in the book of Revelation. He will be the God with them. He will wipe away every tear from their eyes. In our Eucharist, we are the guests at the table, and the Lord gives Himself to us, food and drink. The community leaders, entrusted with the privileged position of knowing the will of the Lord better than others, have a greater responsibility to be vigilant and serve the community.